Hi again, Sophie Glenn here, and now we're going to be talking about rip cuts on the table saw. So like I explained in the previous videos, rip cut is going with the grain of the wood. So you can see I have a piece of poplar here. My grain is going this direction, so it's basically going parallel to the length of the board, and I'm ripping across, or ripping with the grain of the wood there. So for a rip cut, I always want to use the rip fence. And again, because the reason I'm using the rip fence is because I always want to support the longest side of the board. And I know I'm going across the board this way, or sorry, going with the grain of the wood this way. The longest side of my board is here, so I'm going to use the rip fence to help support it this way. So the key here in this video, I just want you to pay attention to where my body is in relation to the rest of the saw. So you'll notice I'm standing again on the left side of the machine here. So if there are any kickbacks that happen, they're going to go right past me and not into my crotch, right? You'll also notice I have a push stick handy. So pretty much rule of thumb here is if you're cutting something that's narrower than about 4 inches, then you'll need to have a push stick handy. Right now it's set up at about 5, and I'm going to use the push stick just to show you guys as demonstration. But I'll probably just do a little rip cut on here as well. But you always want to make sure if you're cutting narrow wood particularly that you have a push stick handy, right? And it's nice that this has a little channel on it, so it's just right here when I need it. So what you'll also notice is that my left hand here is basically staying in place. I'm keeping my hand stationary on this table. And what my left hand is doing is actually keeping it up against that fence. So basically when I'm pushing this through, right, so I'll just demonstrate this again. When I push this through, my left hand is staying in place, and my right hand back here, I have my thumb kind of hooking right behind it. And again, it's just left of center of where I want to cut. So my thumb is also helping it push up against this fence, but I'm also pushing it right straight forward. So basically I can just push this along with my left hand, and then continue that first. My left hand doesn't move, and I can just push it right on through, right? With that said, when you're pushing it right through, you always want to make sure to clear at the very least the riving knife, but I would even just go so far as to just push it right on through that way, right? Because if it gets, so if you stop right where it stops cutting, that still could potentially be a kickback. So you always want to make sure to clear that blade whenever you're doing a rip cut. All right, so that's pretty much that. So I'll go ahead and cut this. So my board is right around 5.5 inches, I believe. So I'll cut it at 4, and then use the push stick as a reference here. So this is your 4-inch minimum. So it's about 1 inch, or a little bit over 1 inch from where the throat plate is. And just to reiterate, the throat plate basically, if you need to change the cartridge out, or if you need to change the blade out, you can take the throat plate off to get a little bit easier access in there, but then it also helps complete that table surface. So it's very similar to the one on the spindle sander where you don't have your piece of wood falling into it, right? So this basically extends that table. Okay, so I'm going to keep my left hand right here. My body's just on the left-hand side of the saw blade, and I'm going to start with my hand pushing it forward, but then when I get fully on the table, I'll finish it off with the push stick. All right. Again, I won't have the dust collection on because my assistant's not here to turn it on for me. But again, your dust collection should be on while you're doing this. And again, safety glasses, earmuffs, and even a face shield, just to be precautious. But it's a little easier for me to talk through this way. So I'll turn the machine on. My wood is away from the blade. Okay. And I have a flat board, so I don't have to worry about that. I can kick it back with this as well. Let it come to a complete stop. So you'll see that I pushed it all the way through, and it went like this mostly, and then I just kicked it away with the push stick, not with my hand, with the push stick, right? So just as easy as that. So another thing I can do is if I'm cutting multiple pieces at the same dimension, so say I'm cutting 1.5 pieces, I can set this to 1.5 inches, again reading on the right side of the fence here. Set this up to 1.5 inches, and then just make a bunch of 1.5 inch cuts, right? So pretty easy. And if you're not sure if your board's flat, you can use the actual table surface. So my board is pretty flat here because I jointed and planed it earlier. Jointed and planed it earlier. But you also want to make sure that one of your edges is flat too. So if you're not sure if your edge is totally flat, just take it to the joiner real quick and just get a nice flat edge on there. And that's that. That's a rip cut.